It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
We are brought to you by the Red, White, and Blue. This is Ken Rollins. Appreciate you tuning in this week. This week's guest is returning from several years back. She was on here, and September is Suicide Prevention Month, so she's here to talk about suicide prevention. Her name is Sarah Pendleton, and she's the Suicide Prevention Coordinator for the Birmingham Medical VA Center, VA Medical Center. So stay where you are. I've got some good information for you. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here, and this week's guest has been on the show before, but she's come down at my request this week because September is Suicide Prevention Week. And we got some things to talk about that even if it's not veteran related, you need to pay attention to what we're going to talk about today. Her name is Sarah Pendleton. She's a suicide prevention coordinator from the Birmingham VA Hospital. So let's join her. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Ken. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. It's you've been traveling, buddy. I tell you, every time I think you was last week, you were somewhere up north.
I was actually in Anniston at the VA clinic last week.
Where?
In Anniston.
Well, when I called, you was on your way up north.
Oh, Muscle Shoals.
Yeah,
yes, we went there too.
That's up north.
Yes.
That's way up.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's been a blur.
So you go around to the various clinics up there.
We do from time to time, and
we'll talk
especially
about that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I want to welcome you back.
Thank you.
This is the first time in our new studios, and you was out at the other one in Jacksonville. And September is National Suicide Prevention Month. So that's your job at the VA. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to talk a lot about that today. It's not a subject that's appealing to everybody. They'll be watching this in the morning and in the afternoon and stuff. So, but I hope that people will pick up on what we're talking about here and learn. First of all, I need to know there's a crisis hotline number. I didn't get that from you. What is it?
It's 1-800-273-8255 or 1-800-273-8255. And that 8255 spells out the word talk, so it makes it easier to remember.
1-800-273-8255. Now that's the number. That's why you get the pin, because people don't know the signs that lead to. There is no one sign that leads to someone that is suicidal. Right. And as I told you before, you and I have talked before, but I didn't know if I've had suicide in family that has touched home real close, and I know how it does, but I still couldn't tell you what I saw to lead up to those. Right. I can see it afterwards.
Right. And
that's the way I hear about people. Well, if I had just a notice, So we're talking about the veterans, and you got. Now we talked about you was up in Muscle Shoals. How many clinics does the Birmingham VA have in Alabama?
The Birmingham VA has 9, we call them CBOCs, which stands for Community-Based Outpatient Clinics. And so we cover pretty much from Childersburg up north. So we've got the entire northern part of Alabama, and really anything south of Childersburg falls to the Montgomery, Tuskegee VA. But we've got them in Childersburg, Gunnersville, Gadsden, Bessemer, Muscle Shoals, Huntsville, Decatur, Anniston, and I said Huntsville. I think.
Is Muscle Shoals new?
No, Muscle Shoals, it's been there at least 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
It's been there the whole time.
Well,
I've been
I just found out Elvis died the other day, so.
Right.
Now so.
Oh, and Jasper.
Yeah,
Jasper is the 9th one. Mm-hmm.
So the veterans in these areas where there's a clinic, like Oxford has a CBOC.
Yes, sir.
They have people there that are suicide prevention alert, aware, trained.
Our goal is that everyone that works at the VA is suicide prevention aware and trained. We do training every month in new employee orientation, so every new VA employee goes through that, and we really focus on discussing the signs and symptoms of suicide, and so people are aware of that. So as far as actual suicide prevention coordinators, there's myself. We have Amy Burks, who is a full-time suicide prevention coordinator in Huntsville. Then we have Brooke Brown, who is a half-time suicide prevention case manager who's based out of Birmingham. But we cover all of the CBOCs, and any mental health professional is very well aware of the suicide risk factors and knows how to help a veteran who presents in suicidal crisis.
I've talked about that a lot on the show here, especially when the ties. Well, I've had a lot of shows about PTSD, TBIs, and stuff like traumatic brain injury, and I'll talk about this, but you don't have to, because I saw it this morning where the shooter at the Navy Yard, his dad said he had PTSD, and he also was worried about him because he was showing signs of suicide. So here we are today, just a few minutes since I saw that on Fox, that we're talking about a suicide sometimes suicide is not by themselves but by cops.
Right.
So that may or may not turn out to be the thing, but he definitely had a mental health history, and that's what we're talking about is the mental health. And if I said to you, I'm gonna give you a subject, you tell me, is that something you might see in someone who's suicidal? And I'm just off that, somebody who's withdrawing from the family. Would that be a sign?
That's definitely a warning sign. And more often than not, of the suicides that we're made aware of at the Birmingham VA, when we go back and talk with family after we learn about the suicide, that's something that almost all of the time they say, we notice them kind of keeping more to themselves, just thought maybe they were in a mood or something. But yes, isolation, withdrawing from friends and family, not keeping up your regular activities, those are really serious risk factors.
What about not wanting to go out in a public thing? Is that one of them, or is that just something else?
Yeah, well, that has to do, again, with just the isolation and withdrawing from normal activities. It could be like worsening of depression, because when you are depressed, you have very little energy to go and just do basic day-to-day things like grocery shopping, and that sort of thing. And so with any kind of exacerbation in depression, certainly risk for suicide can be increased.
Yeah, I know that in the younger relationships, I don't mean teenagers, but I mean young people in their 20s and 30s. Some of the young Iraqi, Afghanistan veterans, it's amazing how many of those that we're talking about suicidal. And if you leave a situation at a home front and you go to Afghanistan and come back to a different kind, that's a devastating, traumatic event. Would you say that those fall into the...
Absolutely, yes, sir. There's veterans are at increased risk for suicide because of the trauma that they may have experienced overseas, but also because of just what you talked about, the being deployed and away from their family, and then so that's difficult in and of itself. But then oftentimes they come home and their circumstances may have drastically changed, and so then they're dealing with reintegrating into this life that is new to them, that they feel the rug has been pulled out from underneath their feet. And so because of those things, they're at higher risk for suicide, just because of the life instability that the military culture, really begets.
Yeah, that I always talk about when you said the deceleration, except, when you get on the interstate today on your way down here, they had a place where you ease into the traffic. And then when you got off of the interstate, you decelerated off of the traffic. They don't have that in the military. Sometimes you come right out of the battle and right back in the house, and then your world just falls apart. It's not what you expected. You're not who she expected or whatever. And so that leads to a lot of it in the military life. There's others where in civilian life other things happen, but okay, we're running out of time on this segment, but I got a lot of things I want to talk to you about. And remember, folks, that's 800-273-8255. We got to go to a break, come back, got more with Sarah. Stay there. Welcome back. We're talking with Sarah Pendleton, the Suicide Prevention Coordinator at the Birmingham VAMC. That's the VA hospital over there. Sarah, when we left, we're talking about so many things I can't remember, but do you know about that hotline number that I gave? Is there a lot of people call that, or do you have any idea?
Yes, sir. There it is. The growth of it has been tremendous, and we've been really excited to see that. Last year, they had over 33,000 calls, and that's to the Veterans Crisis Center. Okay, it's important for everyone watching to know that number is the National Suicide Crisis Hotline. Anybody can call it.
So 33,000 veterans.
That's just from the Veterans Call Center. So anyone can call it, but when you call, it says press 1 if you're a veteran, So we encourage any veteran to press 1, and then that connects them with the VA call center, and they will get whatever kind of help they need.
What if a spouse is suspect of something happened to the husband or the wife? You know, the military, male and female, sir. What if the spouse is suspect of something happening to her husband or wife, whatever? Can they do that? What do they press?
They press 1.
As if they're military?
Yes, if you're
Okay,
calling
veteran.
in regards to a veteran, whether
Okay.
you're a veteran yourself or a family member,
That's
press
good
1.
enough. But I would think that the veterans sometimes don't make that call
Right.
on their own.
Right. We
That's
get a lot
great.
of calls from family members.
That's great.
Yes.
Because it's sometimes, you know, you see people acting different. And I always talk about, you know, the PTSD. Sometimes it don't develop right then. That's when it's
Right.
called post.
Right.
It's after the event.
Exactly.
And so they don't have those thoughts and stuff. Sometimes they just feel like backed into a corner. And that may happen 10, 15 years down the road. And they say, why is my husband acting like this? Or why is my wife acting like that? And they think back, you know, well, she or he started acting like this after they got back from Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever. So, you know, I can see that a spouse would be doing a lot of calling. Because do they have that hotline is there, but do you have an office in Birmingham that they call to locally, or is that just this number gets to you?
Yeah, the hotline gets to us, and so that's the number we really want to advertise, because I only work a certain number of hours a day,
Yeah.
but the hotline is there 24 hours every day of the year. They have over 50 trained responders on duty at any given point, and so your call is going to immediately get through to somebody. And if you're calling from the Birmingham catchment area, and if with your permission, the call will get routed to me, not directly, like the
Yeah.
hotline responder will help with whatever you need. But
Do you answer calls yourself?
I get calls all the time from veterans who have just gotten my name and number from, you know, the VA or whatever. I'm on the phone a lot, and so I always tell people to call the hotline if you don't get me, because that way you can get help right away when I may be tied up with another call or something like that.
Well, this won't about anybody in particular, but have you ever had to talk somebody down?
Oh, yes, sir, every day.
Okay.
Wow. Yes, sir.
That's an awesome thing. That's got to it's be rewarding, but also you got a feeling for things that's happening that most people are not aware of. You know, people think of veterans that go out and defend the country and everything America stands for, and then they come home and they take their lives or something like that. There's more to it than that, and I can assure you that it didn't just happen. They just didn't do it right then. Now, there's something that I've been looking at, and it's NAMI, and you'll know what it is because you're involved in it. It's a National Alliance of Mental Illness, and that's just what causes these problems, is a mental disconnect somehow. Would you agree?
Yes, sir, yeah.
That there was something I want to talk about too. There's a walk going on. I want to make sure if Kizzy can bring that up in the control room. There is a 1.5 mile walk on September the 28th. There it is. It says invites, but who's doing inviting?
NAMI is
NAMI.
inviting.
I
So
said NAMI,
anyone can show up on the day of. It's September 28th. Registration is at 9 o'clock. So you can show up the day of. And really, NAMI is there to just really support families of anyone that has a family member with a mental illness. And of course, that includes veterans. So it's a really great resource, good support for family members of veterans who may be struggling with PTSD or depression.
So that would be part of it. Then that website is www.namibirmingham.org. If you couldn't see it on the screen there, that is there's a lot of people involved in that. So it doesn't have to be just veterans.
Right.
So everybody is involved, welcome to participate in that. But there is when you was on the show years ago, you had a thing. Some of my old notes that you had a thing called SAVE. Is it still going on? SAVE?
Yes, sir.
That's not saving money, but would you explain that acronym for us?
It's saving lives. The
Okay.
Operation SAVE is the gatekeeper training that the VA uses for all of their suicide prevention awareness training. And SAVE is an acronym that it's 4 different words that if you can remember these 4 words, You will go a very long way in helping save a veteran's life if you come across someone who's suicidal.
S is for?
Signs of suicidal thinking.
A is for?
Ask the question. Ask them.
I'm going to get you on this one.
Are you thinking about suicide?
V is?
V is for validate the veteran's experience. Don't undermine them. Don't say, oh, you don't want to do that. Validate them. Tell them, thank you for sharing how you're feeling with me. We're going to get you help. And just really validate their experience.
E
is for encouraging treatment and expediting the referral to whatever treatment that is.
That is the validation. That was a part that I think I understand, but if somebody says, I got this, you mean if somebody's indicating that they have suicidal thoughts, you don't want to say, no, you don't want to do that, or no, you're going to be a fool to do that. What you say validating, you're saying what? I understand why you're feeling that way.
Well, but not. I don't really use those words because a lot of times, like, I can't understand that, and so it frustrates them if I'm over-identifying. But to just let them know it's okay that you're feeling the way that you're feeling, because there's help. And so obviously we want them to choose a different route. We don't want them to commit suicide, and so it's perfectly fine to communicate that, but we want to let them know it's okay, because anyone who is feeling suicidal already has so much shame and guilt about the way they're feeling.
Yeah.
If you go and then say, oh, you can't feel that way, think of the horrible way your children would take that, that would be terrible, well, then you've just added more shame and guilt on top of them, what they're already feeling. And so to validate just simply means you being okay with where the veteran is at that time. And so certainly we want to encourage them to get help, let them know that help is available, and keep them safe. But just to let them know, thank you for sharing this with me. There's many veterans who feel the same way. You're not alone. We can get you help.
What about bringing religious aspects into it, biblical things? Is that okay to talk to them about?
It depends on your relationship with the veteran, but generally speaking, I would say no.
Yeah.
Again, because the guilt and shame that they're already feeling, a lot of times around, especially in the South, I've noticed people want to remind people that, of those religious beliefs and things that they think happen if you commit suicide. It's just not helpful.
Yeah.
The veteran logically knows those things.
Having the feeling is one thing. Let someone know about it is another. Mm-hmm. That they will never forget that I was feeling this way. Mm-hmm. And they really probably don't know just how many people they've associated that day that had the same feelings as them. Right. So it's okay to have these feelings. Right. It's just not okay to act on them like that.
Right, exactly. Clearly we don't want people to do that, but it is great. If someone is telling me that's how they feel, I am excited because that means I can help them.
But we got less. I want to make sure that the pastors of these churches out there, they start looking at these veterans. We're going to have 20,000 of them coming back here, and the people that's in their churches and synagogues, there is hope for people like that. If they notice these things, and if nothing else, just my name is numbers on here. They can give me a call. Sarah, we run out of time.
Thank you so much.
You so much
we really
for doing
appreciate
this.
it.
And I hope you folks got something out of this. It's not just for the veteran, but for someone, your family or friends. So stay where you are. Come back. I got news that you can use. Welcome back into Veterans Issue. Appreciate Sarah coming in doing this show this week. A lot of information on there about suicide prevention. Remember to keep my number handy, and I've got those numbers for you. Next week, my guest is by popular request is going to be George Waters, the 92-year-old veteran that was an ex-prisoner of war, and You've asked for him to finish his story. There's no way he can finish his story. We'll just tap on some more of it. But I want to get him before he goes down to Texas. So George will be my guest next week. So those of you that want to meet George, he's going to be here at the studio next Tuesday. And if you on my Facebook friends, I'll tell you what time and all that stuff. So a lot of people want to meet him. He's got a book, and he'll be glad to sign that book for you. So George Waters is going to be my guest next week. Now, we're doing the Veterans Court in Calhoun County as being put together by Judge Stedham. And if you would like to be a part of that, a mentor or be a part of that, give me a holler. Sheriff Emerson and some others are on that committee being put together. So we got them all over the state of Alabama. And it's good to see that Calhoun County is going to come around and have one. So, and you've seen in the paper, we still need we still need drivers for the DAV van. And so driving from Oxford VA clinic over to Birmingham VA every morning, and we appreciate those of you that have signed up to be a driver. That's a noble job, and appreciate you, those volunteers that's already done that. But if you'd like to be a driver and take the veterans to and from the VA hospital, give me a call and I'll put you in touch with Paul Brulé, and we'll get you hooked up. If jobs out there that veterans are looking for a job, and here's a number to call, 256-832-0147, extension 244, and that's friend Sonny Miller, and he's with the Veterans Alabama Employment Office, and he's a veterans representative. Parking for the VA hospital, I've told you, it's 2128 4th Avenue North, and as many times as I've told about it, told that new address, and it's on the screen, there's still people call me, and they're en route, and they're in their automobile. What's that parking? What's the name of that parking? A lot of you see me with that walking cane I got that's got that big eagle head on it. Jack York is going to be on the show sometime in November. Santa Claus, the guy with a beard, and he makes those canes. If you want one of those, give him a call at 256-237-4743. And let's see, we're still trying to build those memorials in Anniston, the one for the law enforcement firefighters, Afghanistan and Iraq. And we, if you'd like to contribute your to the nonprofit Community Foundation, P.O. Box 1826, Anniston 36202. Put Centennial Park on our parks so we know what your donation was for. And we was talking about the clinics they've got, and I seen Oxford, Bessemer, Childersburg, Decatur, Madison, Gadsden, Gunnersville, Huntsville, Jasper, and at Muscle Shoals. I had it on my paper, but I didn't know that. And we're down to, if you got any unserviceable flags, take them down there to 15th Street, the old 911 building, East 15th Street. You'll see a container for the flag, and we'll dispose of them properly on Flag Day. Now, the shout-outs this week go to Marquita down at Dunkin' Donuts. Tracy Hurd at Publix. I got to say it twice. IHOP, Erica, Michelle, Shoshone, Miss Betty Carr, the ambassador to Anniston. Big shout to the fan club president, Ashley Mitchell. Now, this week's salute goes to all those that work in the mental health, helping our America's veterans. And this salutes you, and especially you, Sarah, for what you do. Thank you. Salute.